Today we're going to talk about tags and labels and how to create new ones from scratch. So as most of you probably are aware, you can automate your documentation of some of your piping objects, actually all of your piping objects and your multi-view parts, by using tags. And what tags generally do is read the property set information that's attached to the object and put it into a text object. It's still a tag and it will automatically update whenever those property sets update, such as an elevation tag that reads the elevation. As soon as the elevation changes, the tag will go ahead and update and reflect that new change. EastCoast does supply a set of pre-made tags. The tags that we supply are more geared towards just some of the basic information that you're going to need, such as the cut length of your pipe, the spool number if you're using the spooling functions, and we have the bottom of insulation, bottom of pipe, center of pipe, top of insulation, and then for slope pipe we have bottom of pipe in and bottom of pipe out. Every once in a while I get asked, why are the tags displayed 3 times for each one? And if you look at these, each one of these tags has a different insertion point. And the way I like to create my tags is I equate the insertion point to the justification point of the text. So this tag is going to grow from the left side to the right side. This tag is going to grow equally in each direction, and this tag is going to grow from the right side to the left side. So depending on how you place your tags, that could be important to make sure that as your text changes, the tag still is readable and is not blocked by other objects. So those are the tags that we display automatically, or not automatically, that we supply out of the box. So what do you do if those tags don't exactly fill your needs? Well, you need to create your own custom tag, and those are extremely easy to create using the property sets that we supply, or if you create your own property sets. The command to do that is the define tag command. So you can type define tag at the command line and you will initiate the tag creation dialog. Or if you want, on the home tab you can go to the annotation panel, choose the drop down, and then just choose the create tag button there. It starts the exact same command. There's nothing special between using one or the other. The one trick to know and to really remember when you're creating your own custom tags is you need to make sure that the text that you're using to start the tag with is non-annotative and is 1 inch high. So let's just go back into AutoCAD and look at that. So let's go ahead and start a new drawing. And you can use mText or you can use regular text to get your text into the drawing. It doesn't matter. You just need to get some text in here in the model space. I like to use middle center as my justification. And right now I have the EastCoast annotative text style selected. As I mentioned, we need to use a non-annotative text style. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to standard. Just real quick, if you needed to use the EastCoast and you needed it to be non-annotative, you can just type the style command, which will bring up the text style dialog. You can select EastCoast and say new, then just go ahead and type in EastCoast again, then maybe a dash, non-A for non-annotative. Hit OK, then just unselect the annotative option, then just hit apply and hit close. Now when we write our mText, we have the EastCoast non-annotative selected. I'm going to choose middle center as my insertion point, and I'm going to make the text 1 inch high. Now I escaped out of that because I wanted to show you an option for not creating your own new text style. You can choose the annotative EastCoast and just come here and unselect that. That now makes that text style unannotative. And you make it 1 inch on your height, then you put in middle center, and then let's just type in whoops, make sure I choose the text down here. Let's just type in sample tag. And you can do all the fancy tricks with your text that you need to do if you want, using all of the controls here. We're just interested in a simple piece of text in there now. So if we select it, we can see over here that we're using the EastCoast text style. It's non-annotative. Our justification is middle center, and our text height is 1 inch. Those are the important things that we need. Now, as I mentioned, now we just type in the define tag command. And we need to give our tag a name. I like using a specific naming style for all of my tags. It just makes everything easy to understand and easy to sort in your tag list. And I usually start all of my tags off with AECB. And the reason why I do that is twofold. One is that's the way Autodesk did it for all of theirs, so I'm just copying that. And two, the reason why they did it is because tags are actually a multi-view block. Multi-view blocks are not really used that much in MEP, but they're used a lot inside of AutoCAD architecture. And basically what a multi-view block is, it's a multi-view part without the connectors. So it allows the architects to create blocks that display differently depending on what view you are in. Very similar to the way multi-view parts work. The only difference being is multi-view parts have connectors on them. And they also allow you to add catalog parameters. But the main thing to know is I put my AECB there just in case you're using multi-view blocks, so you can immediately tell the difference between a multi-view block and a tag. So if you're a multidisciplinary shop, I like to put in pipe after that because there are such things as, HVAC or electrical tags or plumbing tags. So I usually put in pipe. And then I put in whatever the tag is for. In this case, I'm just going to say tag sample. And then I like to put in the fact that it's a tag again. And then I put in my justification. So this was a center justified tag, so I put in center there. That's just in case I create a tag that is right justified or left justified. I can tell quickly at a glance which is which. Down here, the label, it puts in the whatever we had in for our text. And for a tag that only reports one property, that's not a big deal. But as soon as we're done with this one, we'll create a tag that might report 3 or 4 different properties. So you really need to have your text say something different so you can see exactly which label you are trying to modify. When creating your tags, you can create 2 types. You can create a standard text type, which basically means it won't update, it's static. Whatever is in there for the text will always be in there. So in this example, I've created a tag that says sample tag, and that's the only text that it will ever have. For our purposes, not very useful. So we're going to choose property. And what property does, it allows us to have the tag report the value of a property set definition. So first thing I need to do is choose my property set, and I'm going to go ahead and come down here and choose EC Pipe System Data. Once we have our property set chosen, we can go ahead and choose which property definition we want out of there. And in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and choose my weight. So this tag is basically going to reflect the weight of a pipe fitting. And then also for pipe, it's just going to reflect the weight of a standard unit of pipe, which should be 1 inch. So you need to be careful if you're using this to actually tag the full weight of the pipe. In order to do that, you will need to create a new property set that is this weight value times the cut length of the pipe. So today we're just going to choose weight and use that, but just be aware that that will not be the full weight of the pipe. just the unit weight. So that's it. So you hit OK, and once I hit OK, it's going to ask me to define the tag insertion point. And this is where I like to almost always, and I'll say almost always, what I really mean is 100% of the time, is I choose the text insertion point. And I right-clicked here, and it's going to take just a second for it to come up. So right-click, insert. So I choose the text insertion point, or excuse me, the text justification point as my tag insertion point. And then I just click on it. Then right away, my tag came and sized to the correct annotation scale. So if I change my annotation scale, my tag will now update. And to prove that it's actually the same annotation scale as you have for any other text, I'm going to create a piece of text, middle justification. I am going to make it 330 seconds high, and I'm just going to type in sample tag, and I'm going to hit OK. You can see that it came in at the correct height. My insertion point here should be the same. Actually, when I created this text, I kept the insertion point to the right, middle center. This insertion point is there. So when I bring this up and set it here, and now when I change my scale, you can see that they're both changing, and it's a little bit off because I didn't have the insertion points exactly matched up. All right, so let's delete this straight text. And so there we have it. We've created a tag. I don't have an East Coast catalog loaded, so let me load one, and then as it's loading, we'll go back up into our PowerPoint, and we'll go ahead and look at that. So coming back from here, again, you use non-annotative text 1 inch high. You give it a descriptive name, which I did, and we choose an insertion point similar to the text justification. That's just to make it easy on you, because when your tag, depending on what you have in your tag, the text length could change, and that'll just allow you to, when you insert it, to know with 100% certainty how that tag is going to grow and shrink. Each text object in a selection equates to a different property set. So if I had created 3 pieces of text and then went to create a tag, I could have then had 3 different property sets being reported inside of that tag. And you can do that up to an unlimited amount of text objects. At some point, you really don't need to report on everything in a tag, so you have the capability of doing an unlimited amount, but in reality, you'll probably only do a couple for each tag. And then also, you can, when creating tags, you can also do a mix of graphics and text. The one thing to understand about that, though, is that your graphics will not scale in the same way that your text does. When you put a piece of graphics in your tag, that's the size it will always be. It will never scale appropriately. And you know what, that's actually a little bit incorrect. It will scale appropriately according to your annotation scale. What it will not scale with is your text length. So if you create a box around a tag that is 3 letters long and you change your annotation scale, that box and that tag will scale together correctly, but now all of a sudden your text is no longer 2 characters, it becomes 10 characters. It will expand outside the boundaries of that box, because that box will only scale with your annotation. It will not scale with your text size. And we can look at an example of that back here in AutoCAD. So let's go ahead and put a piece of pipe. Let's go ahead and use the EC copper press fit. And let's just put a piece of pipe on here. And the way I like to add my tags is I usually create a new palette. So let me just choose to my piping here. and go ahead and create a new palette, and then here I'll just put East Coast tags. And I need to save this drawing before you can drag a tag to a tool palette. You need to save your drawing. So here I'm going to save this just as sample tag. Hit save. And now I can take this tag, I can left click on it, hold the button down until I get the little square rectangle by my cursor. Then I can come over to my tool palette and I can just drop that tag on there. And the reason why I like to drop that on there onto a tool palette, because it does a lot of things behind the scenes. When you go to add that tag to that pipe, it'll go ahead and anchor it automatically and do a couple of other things. So now if I select that and come over here and select my pipe, I can now place that tag anywhere I want. So if I come down here and place it here, and it's not wanting to place. I have something not quite working right, but like I said, the way it should work is that when you you select your pipe, you place the tag, and that will then report the weight of that piece of pipe. When you move the pipe, the tag will move with it, keeping its distance that you set from the pipe. It will keep that distance away from that pipe. And actually, let me open that up and just see if it's not something that is very drawing specific. So if I draw a pipe here and go ahead and type in MV block add, if you remember the tags were MV blocks, select that, and then I can select my style. So I'm going to choose my top of insulation, choose my insertion point, and hit enter, and that seemed to work. You notice through the MV block add command, things work a little bit differently. It's not as simple as using the tool palette. So let's try it in this drawing. Select that, hit enter. So I select that, then I have to come up here and say set object, choose that object, constrain it, yes, and then I now see what the problem is. The problem is that we're choosing a property set that is probably blank on this specific object. So the tag is actually getting placed, the value for that is blank. So it's giving us the illusion that it's not doing anything, when in fact it is. The text is just not displaying anything. And to prove that, and I hope I'm right, let's go ahead and create a new tag. And let's do this a couple different ways. Let's create this, and let's go ahead and put in the weight, and then put in a colon. And let's change this justification to be middle right, so it lines up on the right side. And one thing that I didn't do was I needed to make this non-annotative and 1 inch tall. Now let's come over here and let's create another text object, and let's put it right here for now. It needs to be non-annotative, 1 inch tall, and let's make this middle left, and let's just call this value. So I'm going to come up here. I am going to set this next to this piece of text here. And now I'm going to select them both, and I'm going to call the define tag command. I'm going to give it a name, AECB pipe sample tag 2 tag, and my justification for this tag is going to be the center, even though I had different justifications for these two pieces of text. Now for my weight, I'm going to go ahead and leave this to say text. So this will always say weight. Then for my type, I'm going to change the property set, and I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go ahead and choose the EC pipe system data again, And my property definition, I'm going to choose, once again, weight. Then I'm going to hit OK. It's going to ask me for an insertion point, and I will choose somewhere in between the middle of these two. Then I will save this drawing again on my desktop, and I'll just save it as drawing 3. And then I'll go ahead and drag this to the tool palette, and hopefully this will then show us what our issue is. And it did. So if I select this piece of pipe and go to my extended data, here is my weight, 5.38, but this is from the style. So what we did, and this is a common mistake that a lot of people do, and I just did it myself, if I'd have come up here and ran pipe schedule data and attached that information to that pipe, it would have filled in the weight value right away. So you see it got filled in there, and now you start to see that some of those empty ones that I placed show up. So a couple of different lessons we learned there is we always need to run pipe schedule data. Another lesson is it taught us exactly what pipe schedule data does, and it takes these style-based property sets down here and moves them up into a object-based property set. So different styles of objects, pipe, pipe elbow, pipe T, pipe coupling, all of those will have a single property set that they live in, the pipe object property set, or in our case, the pipe system data. So we got a little sidetracked there, but we learned a little bit more. We learned how to create property sets that were a mixture of text and properties, and we learned to always run pipe schedule data as much as possible. And the one thing that we didn't do, but you can extrapolate it from the information that we just shown, was how to create multi-line tags. So if my text was actually multi-line, you can actually have a tag that would come down and show your information like this. So maybe you would have the system, the size of your pipe, the manufacturer of your pipe, and then maybe the weight after that. You can put all of that information into a single tag. And that's about it that I wanted to show you for tags. So let's move on into labels. Labels are a little bit different. That is because there's not a command that you use to create a label. Labels are created using the style manager. Tags are also styles because they are basically multi-view parts, but it's a multi-view part that is being used in a very specific manner, whereas a label is a style all in itself, and you create it using the style manager. So they're style-based, where you can tag a piece of pipe that is in a XREF. You cannot use a label on an XREF piece of pipe. And whereas a tag is very easy to move away from your pipe objects in any direction that you want, a label is more constrained to the object that you're tagging. So it tends to want to stay very close to the pipe. Labels don't reside on pipe fittings. They only reside on pipe objects, which is different from a tag. A tag can basically be associated with any type of MEP object. Labels have the ability to use some pre-made properties, such as the system name, the object property here, that would bring in your nominal diameter. The object properties in a system name will give you your nominal diameter plus your system name. Your component description will be your description of your pipe. The name will be the name of the pipe. The flow, runs, and arrows will allow you to use just a graphics for your arrow, and that's useful for showing direction of flow. It's also associated with the direction of flow of the pipe. So if you didn't realize it, you are able to set the direction of flow on your pipe if you want using AutoCAD MEP tools, and your flow arrows will pick up on that and automatically switch to the direction that the flow is set to on the pipe. You can create a predetermined string, which is done down here, and the most useful and the most customizable one, of course, is being able to use a property set in your label. So like a tag, you can use a property set in your label that will allow you to customize it to say pretty much anything that you want. You can set your text style. You notice in the label, you actually set the style of the text when you're setting the style of the label. With tags, it's a little bit different. You set your style of the text when you create the text object that is being used for the tag. You know, a little bit different on how you do it, and later on down the road, after you've created your labels and your tags, it makes the process of changing this text style a little bit different. For labels, you can come in here and change the text style here, and it'll update all of your labels throughout your entire drawing. For tags, you would have to edit the individual blocks that are associated with each tag, or edit the text style itself. So it's not as easy to change the text style of a tag it is to change the text style of a label. So that's why it's always important to make sure that you have all of your standards and stuff pretty much set up before you start creating these MEP standards, just because it's a little bit more difficult to change down the road. This mask display of curve option, basically when the label comes onto the pipe, if the pipe is smaller than the text object, then it will go ahead and mask that display of the pipe to where you just see the text. Use the layer key from the system definition. If you check that, then it will put the label on the same layer as the object you select, and in this case the pipe. Or use a layer override from your system definition, so you can create a layer override inside your system definition, and the label will go ahead and use that layer. So what a lot of people do is they have a layer set up for the pipe, and then they'll create a layer override that might have text or label at the end of it, so then that their label will go on that layer instead of the pipe layer. So let's move in here to AutoCAD MEP, and let's go ahead and make a label. So I always start by bringing up the Style Manager, and under Documentation Objects, under Label Curve Styles, you'll see all of the currently selected styles for the labels. EastCoast doesn't supply any out-of-the-box labels for piping, because most of the most generally used ones are already created for you by Autodesk. But if we wanted to create a new one, all you have to do is right-click on the label curve style and create a new label. In this case, let's do the same thing as our tag, and let's use the weight property set. So I'm going to come down here, choose property set, then I'll come in here and I'll choose the EC pipe system data, and then I'll come down here and I'll choose weight. And I'm going to go ahead and mask my display of curve if the text is larger than the pipe, and just for consistency's sake, I will go ahead and use EastCoast. In this case, you can, and when you're creating your label, you can use a annotative text, and I'm going to go ahead and use the default layer for labels, and I'm just going to hit OK. Now if I go ahead to command line, type in label curve add, which is the command to insert a label, it's now going to ask me for a style, so I can choose the style, and it's going to say, okay, give it a name, and here I'm just going to type in weight, and choosing at the command line also changes it at the property palette, I could have more easily come up to the property palette and chose weight from here. Then I just come down and I choose the pipe and place the label. Now you can see that this is masking quite a bit of the pipe, more than I really want it to. So I can select this label, right click on it, and go to Edit Label Style, and I believe if I change this gap paper size, hit OK, that it might change it. Yeah, now you can see that it's updated a little bit when I move the label. If we go back and just turn that off completely and hit OK, and then change it, you can see that that masking completely goes away. Now you can see I'm trying to move this label off of the piece of pipe, and it does not want to move. It wants to stay constrained to that piece of pipe. So if I move the pipe, the label will move with it. So if I want to move that label off that piece of pipe, if I take my cursor and hover over the box, it'll bring up this little dialog, and I can say offset. When I say offset, you're going to have the option to offset that label from the pipe. When you're done, again, it's only constrained in the direction of the pipe, so I can move it this way as much as I want. But if I try to move it down again, it will not move anywhere. If I hover over that label once again and choose Move, all it's going to do then is just move its direction. So as I mentioned before, labels are a little bit more difficult to get placed exactly where you want them if you don't want them placed exactly onto the pipe. A label's purpose is to basically live on the pipe or very close to. So that's what it's always going to try to do. If I come down here and I change this to a flow arrow, you can see that it now changes its look and it's going in this direction. If I look at this pipe and I come up to the ribbon and say show flow, it's going to put, generally at the center of the pipe somewhere, it's going to put a little flow arrow. And I'm not seeing it. It's generally on here somewhere. But basically what that does is it sets the flow of the product inside of that pipe. If I set my flow direction, which is what you need to do before you see that little arrow. So you're going to see this little arrow here. That arrow will not print. It's only visual on the screen. You need to use a flow arrow in order to print. So if I select this pipe, and if I choose that flow arrow, set flow direction again, and down at the command line it says flip flow direction, I'm going to choose yes. You can see that my flow arrow here, my label flow arrow, also changed direction. So it respects the flow that your pipe is in. So that could be useful when you need to show the flow of your system. You can use these flow arrow labels to do that, and you can set your flow of your pipe using the methods that we just shown, and then when you create new pipe, it will try to respect that flow direction. So you can see that this flow is now going in the same direction as the other piece of pipe. And when you choose a T and you put that in, that it's going to try to do what it thinks it wants the flow to be. If it's incorrect, then you can come in and change it and have it the correct location. So one other thing that we did not talk about is flow arrows can also have custom blocks. And I'm going to go through that just really quick and just show it to you, and I'll let you go ahead and play with it. So flow run flow arrows, if you select that, you can choose, basically you can choose any block that's currently in your drawing is your flow arrow. So it's very similar to using block graphics, except if you use this one, the block will mirror itself depending on the flow direction. When you use the block graphics, you can come up here and select whatever block you want for that graphic, and it will put that graphic in instead of any text you might have chosen. And you can scale your block up or down however you want. Things I've done in the past is create a block to show the slope. So that can be useful for that type of information.